Greeting everybody, this is Ishwari J and my partner Stephen Hellinger from the Change Agent TV. Welcome and welcome to our home actually. We're on our deck. We hope that the sun will not be shining too much on our faces, but don't you love the ability to be able to do this broadcast live right here in Marin County? And if you hear sound, it's just birds, really. And so we've been starting this series called The 7 Keys to Using Business as a Vehicle for Change. And so every other weeks, we've been starting together with the 7 keys as a general introduction to all keys. And then the second time, I went ahead by myself to share key number 1. And we're going to review the 7 key and key number 1 and key number 2. But so today we are going to be talking about key number 2, which is to reevaluate or established company core value and involve all the stakeholders. We'll talk about this. Last time, the first key was to start here. And I was by myself. So this time I will leave Stephen, who is really a master at sharing about core values in businesses, share, and we'll share our screen. But before we start, I'd like to remind you that if you have any devices that may keep you out of focus from being with us, please turn them off. And we are live, so you use the link that we provided when you register. So you have a chat box on the side, and we will not have a Q&A at the end. So by all means, if you have any questions or comments during the talk, feel free. Even when you share our screen, we'll be able to look at the chat. So you can share your name or say hi, and we'll be happy to hear from you. And then we'll wrap it up within about 30 minutes. So anything you would like to add before we review the 7 keys, Stephen? Or maybe you want to share the 7 keys. I'm sure you'd love to.
Well, I think this is just an amazing time we live in where technology like this allows us to be in this kind of conversation. And that isn't always the way it's been, you know. And so having the opportunity to explore these keys through Change Agent TV is incredible. And thank you for joining us in this exploration. This is a great venture, as business is. Business is a great venture. And
adventure?
It's a venture and adventure. It's both. It's both. And we had a beautiful opportunity. I know next week's guest on Change Agent TV is going to be Barbara Marks Hubbard, and Ishwari and I had the chance to spend some time with her over this past weekend. And you know, I just, you know, when you talk about evolutionary entrepreneurs, you know, she really gets it. She talks, you know, she talks about the vocational seduction, you know,
vocational arousal,
you know, it's like,
and she really embody despite her age. I mean, she's so useful.
Yeah, so you know, so inspiring to be with such an evolutionary leader like Barbara. And so it's right on target with what we're talking about here to making business a vehicle for change. And so the 7 keys we introduced a few weeks back to kick off this program, and we can run through those in case you weren't available for that initial kickoff. The first key was about starting where you are, really, and that if you want to incorporate some of the ways of change agency, you can start right where you are. You don't need to wait for an invitation. You don't need to join a club or anything like that specifically.
Really?
Yeah, you can just start where you are. So if you want to know more about that, you can look at the key number 1 broadcast and when you get the opportunity to do that. So, but the second key, which is tonight, is we're going to jump into core values. So I'm excited to share that because it's a foundationing piece, I think, for any organization that really wants to make a difference, both inwardly and outwardly. So very excited to jump into that tonight. The third key we'll be looking at in a couple weeks is making whatever change for good your organization is embracing a cultural imperative. So how do you take this change approach that you're embracing, and how do you bring that into your culture, and actually be the change, right? As I think Gandhi said, right? The fourth key is to set up your company culture so that it's nimble and adaptive. We live in a time of dynamic change. I mean, technology, as we mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, it's advancing so rapidly and so amazingly that I think as organizations today, we need to be as nimble and adaptive to keep up with those changes and to be a force for good in this type of climate. The fifth key is to create an enrollment process for all your stakeholders to align, with your mission orientation. The sixth key is about balancing both the inner and outer expression of whatever changes your organization is embracing. And the seventh key, which is a big one, it kind of closes the loop as we put this together, is to trust the process of shifting your company's culture and the new focus of being a force for good. And
wonderful. Thank you, Stephen,
yeah.
for
Yeah.
this wonderful summary.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we are on key number 2, and we're going to talk about reevaluating or establishing your business core values. And so, let's start with the beginning. Reevaluating, it's one option. That means you have a business and you already have core values. Congratulations, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of people who have a business. They may have a mission statement, some have a vision statement, but a lot of people don't have core values. So I commend you for that. And so reevaluating, this is going to be for you. You now suddenly has either expanding your need to be a change agent in your business, or just want to do more or slightly differently. And core values, they are living entities. They are alive because they come from the individual that is the foundation of the business. So as you change, as a change agent, you're changing yourself, your core value may change. And so we will help you to refine. I'm sure Stephen will be delighted to share some maybe even some exercise to actually do with your team in finding out how to really know what's your core value and what's the order, because the order matters. And then the second word, or establish your core value. So establish means, well, either you're in startup, so you are creating all the content, the message of the story of your startup, of your business, the story for maybe your potential investor, for your marketplace. So you're in a perfect place. So it's like, great. And it's the best way if you create the core values now, because your story will be tainted by that. The best place. And even if you just you move startup, you're in profit, and you haven't done that, it's never too late. So there's no, it's a win-win-win-win-win-win. That's my point. And so core values, I have to say a little bit about Stephen, because he's not only worked on these core values in companies through his consulting and through his own businesses. I mean, he was when you co-founded Ecomedia. What was the year that was?
2001,
2001, where his company had all the characteristics of for benefit, when for benefit were not even accepted as not even a term, and now even a status. As we know, it's changed so fast. And so I really consider Stephen a pioneer in using business as a vehicle for good, and Comedia was a force of good, and still is. It's being sold to CBS.
Yeah.
And so he's been there, done that. Let's put it that way. So without waiting any longer, I'm going to pass it to my sweet honey and partner in always, Stephen.
Thanks, Ishwari. So, well, core values is such a sweet topic, really. And it's a kernel, really, when we look at it. And, to me, in some of the work I do in economics, in the economic theory that I've been maturing and putting into practical application via A-List Hub, the holonomic perspective, at the root of that is core values. So my passion in core values is both from a personal level, from a business model level, as well as an economic, really what I would say, mandatory requirement. Because the holonomic perspective really sees that some of the bottlenecks to thriving economies or a thriving business model or a thriving community or a thriving family life financially are all connected to core values. These core values affect the vibrancy of the whole organism. And because core values ultimately make their way into the agreements that we use to set up our businesses, that we use to engage with others in our business. And so whether that's a vendor contract, an employee agreement, an operating agreement, an investment agreement, any kind of agreement we enter into as business people, at the root of that agreement is your core values, because you're basically agreeing to certain terms when you enter that agreement. And so what are those terms based on? Where are we making our agreements from? What's influencing our choices of the terms that we're agreeing to? And are those in alignment with our core values? So the importance of core values precedes our ability to actually enter an agreement that's going to support our mission. So this is why core values is oftentimes a piece in foundationing work of an organization, which includes mission and vision work. And if any of you have ever been a part of mission and vision work, you know that that's almost like a corporate retreat or a company immersion, that basically in order to unearth the vision for a company and to create a vision statement and to create a mission statement for a company, you really have to do a deep dive. You really have to take a really inward look at what you're all about. And in order to kind of consecrate that and have that have that become a living template for your business and everything your business gets involved in. And so oftentimes, especially in more recent years, core values have been added to that vision and mission exercise. So oftentimes what you hear is vision, mission, values. And when you say values, that's really core values. Because values touch every aspect of life, although oftentimes they're below the conscious level of awareness. We don't wear them on our sleeve, or we have badges that say, oh, this is what I stand for. But we tend to know what we stand for. And so, but the deeper question as an organization, as an entrepreneur, or as a change agent inside of an organization is, does your organization have core values? And so that's what we're all here about to talk to tonight. So with that said, let's, can we share the screen and show a couple of
Sure. So we're going to go ahead and share our screen.
Yeah.
And again, use the chat if you somehow don't see it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to click here, start screen share. And
nice.
Here you go.
Yeah, so we're looking at our key number 2, of course. And so let's talk about core values. And so here up on the screen right now is a great definition of core values that I like to use when I train core values with clients as a consultant, and certainly like to use whenever I'm doing my own core values work. So the core values of an organization are those values we hold which form the foundation on which we create and conduct ourselves. That's pretty basic. We have an entire universe of values, but some of them are so primary, so important, that throughout the changes in society, government, politics, and technology, they're still the core values we abide by. In an ever-changing world, core values are constant. So that starts to set the table for this kind of inquiry, this kind of exercise that...
and the degree of importance.
Yeah,
actually.
Absolutely. So, I mean, this is, you know, I've said it already, but it is foundational. Taking some time out to determine what these are for yourself individually, this is by the way, this is one of those types of exercises that is, you know, those Russian dolls. They kind of they're like an egg, and they kind of, you open the one egg, and then there's another egg inside, and then another one, and another one, and another one.
Yeah.
That's the way core values are. They work at the individual level, they work at the department level, they work at the company level, they work at the community level, they work at the society level, they work at the
so because I was gonna just kind of act like the devil's advocate in listening to your presentation, and I was gonna question great, okay, so we get it's the foundation, we get it's important, and how is it helping me to use my business as a vehicle for change? But then what you said with I like the Russian doll metaphor here, is it's like it's affecting everything, including the world. So like, I don't know, give me an example then a value that would be actually a wrong peak if you want to change the way the world is today. If you can even think like a really bad value.
Oh, crass. Oh, like, I mean, something like coercion, or
you value coercion.
we value coercion here, you know, so we're going to manipulate other people.
But some people have these values. So perfect example, because I'm sure you listening, you can think of one person I'm sure that had that value and really showed up that way. And maybe we're thinking about the same people. So that's my point. So the selection of the values can make your business a fourth of good, but pick the right one.
Absolutely. Well, and more than that, you know, as this slide points out, this ever-changing world, right? And all these changes at these different levels, because business is navigating a marketplace. And the marketplace has many dynamics. I mean, we have regulatory issues and governance issues, and we have legal issues, and we have tax issues, and we have all these different things, political influences, and all these things affect how our business navigates the world. And so it's important that we have a compass, and that's an inner compass, because if we get, it's like being tossed around in a violent ocean situation where the waves are turbulent and everything. It's like, if you don't have a compass and a guidepost, you're going to get lost at sea. Right? And as a business owner or somebody that's leading a business, the last thing you want to do is get lost in the sea of the marketplace. You want to have a solid compass to know your orientation and where you came from and where you're heading. And so core values help to maintain the direction of a company and to not get lost at sea. That's one of the greatest values of core values, is that's actually what it does. Is it really helps clarify who you are in the marketplace. It helps others to know who you are, and most importantly, it helps you to know who you are and where you're making your decisions from, and what type of agreements you're agreeing to that are keeping you on your path toward your mission. So core values absolutely support your mission and your vision. So they're very coupled together. There's like a great marriage between all these things. That's why they're oftentimes looked at together. So what is the value of core values? Well, let's look at some of these. So here's some of the things that core values help with, and why these are a force for change for your business. Number one is they govern personal relationships. So if, let's say, well, at A-List Hub, loving is one of our core values.
Aww.
Right? That we want to have a loving environment in which we conduct our business, right? And so
do you define it?
We do. Well, of course, there's definitions for that. And we're going to look at a couple examples of core values and some definitions later in the talk here. But so loving, I mean, we all know what it feels like to be loved and what it feels like to love. And so in terms of that as a core value, wow, we want to have a loving environment. We want to have a loving culture. We want to have loving exchanges between each other. Now, does that mean that we're, kissing everyone on the lips? No, that's not what that means. Of course not. But, it means that we're treating each other respectfully and lovingly in our exchanges. And so that's an example. Or, you know, let's take
Heart-centered, basically.
yeah, heart-centered, or
those of
yeah,
you
maybe
that
heart-centered, or you know, you can look at values like authenticity or transparency. I mean, you can see how that type of value is going to affect your personal relationships, whether that's inside your company or externally with other stakeholders.
And it's important to define them, because
Yeah.
definitely loving loving is one of the most unique value in terms of, I believe there's a definition for each individual. And so to have like a field of common agreement of what it means to you, like what's some of the boundaries, even, you know, maybe you want to be loving with somebody who wants to have her lunch break by themselves, and so how do you share that? And could be what loving means in terms of certain communication, and how to be direct. You know, like there's a lot of details to apply core values, but that's a great example.
Exactly. Yeah, so we'll talk about that more, about the importance of defining the core values. Because anybody could go online and Google search core values, and you can see all kinds of lists of core values that certain companies have. Some companies like Zappos, for example, their core values, a lot of companies, they've done some core values work, and it's a list on a wall when you go into the reception area. But you can really discern the difference between the companies that have embraced core values as a way of being versus doing a core values exercise and listing them on the wall. Like at Zappos, you can go around and ask people, well, what's your favorite core value here at Zappos? And everyone in that place is going to have their favorite, and they'll probably talk about 2 or 3 other ones at the same time.
Yeah, and this is this is a very important point that Stephen brings up, is that, you know, you may, if you really not fully getting yet the power of energy frequency and how it attract you know, your same frequency based on embodying certain things. So in that case, the core values, and like Stephen said, it's so easy to copy and paste, but that the words won't be enough if you haven't done the time it takes to really you and your team get together and to find out how, in all forms possible, how to fully embody those values by taking the time and not just copy and pasting them from a good company. Then this is where the result comes from, the effort that you put into it.
Yeah, and I would say every business model and every founder's team and every executive team and every core team of any endeavor likely has its own set of values, which is a whole other level of core values work that I've been engaged in the world, serving to help align values. Because one of the things you'll start to realize as you embrace your own core values within your organization is you realize that as you meet other, what I'll call conscious businesses, you will realize that they've also done their core values work, but your group's core values and theirs might not be exactly identical. And so there's a whole other level to core values that that comes into play once you've established this. But the beauty of it is, once you know who you are, it helps guide business processes. So when you enter in negotiation with another company that also has its core values, you can quickly jump to the places where you're in alignment. You know, oh, we all have these core values. Great. We can rest at ease that these things are all in place right away. So core values guide business processes. Let's go through the rest of these. They clarify who we are. Core values helps define who we are. So in terms of like enrolling new team members into your organization, it's really a great thing to take new team members through, as a core values exploration, so that they can dive in and get the same depth of meaning that the people who were part of establishing the core values already have. So it's a great thing for that. So identification, it's a great thing for clarifying who you are with your customers, right? And it helps articulate what you stand for, right? It helps explain why we do business the way we do. It guides us on how to teach, right? If there's certain things that as a business model or as an organizational model that we're actually providing a teaching facility. Core values guide not only what we teach, but how we teach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like also it creates a magnet for attracting the right people, both if you're looking for people to work with you or the customers, and you fully embodies those values, you will certainly attract people who have the same value, because we like attracts like, and don't we love it when we can actually work with people we like because they're like us? It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. There's alignment. Core values alignment at that level is really a beautiful thing. And this is something, by the way, that the up and coming, let's call it workforce, if you will, to use an older term, but the millennials, the younger workforce that's coming online right now, this is something that they almost insist upon. For whatever reason, they've come up with a real inner compass within themselves that is actually seeking out companies that are also anchored in their core values. So just know that if you're really looking to attract talented people onto your team, then having core values is definitely going to help you, especially in this time in creation and business. So other things it does is it informs us how to reward, right? Because core values is like, well, people that are really carrying the basis of core values into everything they do, they're really walking the walk, right? They're not just talking the talk, they're really walking the walk, and it helps us to know how to reward. It guides us in making our decisions. It underpins the whole organization, and it requires no external justification to have core values, by the way. That's a good thing. And
it's free.
Yeah, it's free. And it's the inner work. And so this is the inner game of business, as we like to say it at the Change Agent Hub, really it's the inner work. And this has untold benefit.
Foundation, that's what we call it, the foundation. As within, so without.
Yeah. So these are the essential tenets of your business. So it's worth doing this work. So let's dig a little deeper. So, as with any endeavor, there's a set of guiding principles or underlying premises on which it's based. Foundation your company on a set of core values forms the basic or primary GPS. Remember how I said it was a compass? So this is like your GPS, right? In your car or on your smartphone, you have a GPS, right, that helps navigate you. Well, the core values can be a navigation system. So it's a GPS for both how and what your company creates, and how it interacts both inwardly and outwardly as part of being a vehicle for change. So this is great. It goes right in line with the whole change agent kind of principle that we're here to talk about. And so the how and what really get influenced by this. So let's look at a couple of candidates for core values.
Just some examples.
Some examples
to give you some idea.
So I mentioned authenticity a little bit ago. So authenticity, and here's a definition of one organization, an example of the core value of authenticity: to be genuine, to embody one's true spirit, to dance one's dance, to sing one's song, to radiate the truth of one's being. So we really, for this particular thing, that expression is we want people to be who they are, with this kind of core value.
So when you do your work with your team, you could literally create a grid, like a little table, and write in one side what it could look like to be authentic, and on the other side, let's say on the other side is everything that would not be authentic, like judging people, or just lying to them, or just exaggerating, or telling them, how are you today? Oh, I'm well, when you actually feel really in a negative place. And how do you open up? And because it really takes a lot of vulnerability, so you'd have to actually create some work around it. That's why it's so much the inner work, and this way particularly, I think it's the most challenging. Fortunately, I never worked in big corporation, but some of my colleagues mentioned that one of the things they suffer the most is the lack of authenticity and the hypocrisy that would run there. So that's a very noble value. I just wanted to share
it is
that.
and it really encourages everyone to be who they are, which is to be celebrated, by the way. If we're not inviting authenticity, as a core value within our organizations, then perhaps you might want to take a closer look at that. You know, and maybe there's a different term for you and your group, but authenticity really is about bringing out the full nature of someone's gifts. And
Yes.
so that you can see why that would be an important core value, because you want everyone to be the most of who they are and to celebrate that within your company. Another core value might be clarity, being clear and lucid in one's understanding and easily understood in conveying one's understanding. Simple. So clarity, you know, we want to exercise clarity at our company. We don't want to make decisions from a blurry, confused, disillusioned place. We ask for clarity before we make decisions. I mean, that's a simple core value. We're not going to make decisions based on being blind, right? I mean, so you can start to see where a core value of clarity starts to influence all the processes within your company.
And that doesn't take away that to every new project, there is always a degree of unknown.
Yeah.
But as long as you have clarity that there is such a thing and no misunderstanding, then you are in alignment with your value.
Yeah. Here's one that's real popular within this change agent community for sure, is to be collaborative.
I like the picture.
Yeah. And, you know, working cooperatively together. And this is one definition, by the way. You may value collaborative, but collaborative for you and your organization might have a different meaning. This is just one example of some work that came out of exploring this as a core value. Working cooperatively together with others to realize shared goals or endeavor by freely sharing knowledge, learning, and building consensus.
It's a wonderful value for change agents.
Yeah, it really is. And I would like to just comment on this, because I think this is kind of an era. In fact, it came up with Barbara when we were in discussion with her. But really, when I would say the enterprise of the future is not necessarily a large corporate conglomerate. That would be what you might call an enterprise of the past. I believe the enterprises of the future are going to be collectives of organizations. And so this collaborative nature, this value for collaboration, is going to start to, it already is starting to.
It's just going to become unavoidable.
Yeah, it's basically, you see that organizations are working in cooperation with one another and collaborating as a network of companies, not so much as kind of owning the entire domain. It's almost like we've entered an era where people can be totally good at what they're good at and collaborate with others to complement their offering in the market. And it's amazing. So anyhow, you can see how collaborative would be a valuable thing. So anyhow, that's a couple examples. She's pausing me.
I'd like to invite you, or to even challenge you, if you do choose this value as part of your value set, to eradicate the word competition completely out of the language of everyone in your company. And again, that's the power of communication. If you use a word that is directly against the value as a term that you use in your company, somehow you don't get this value to be at its optimal. It's almost like there's a misalignment here again. Right, Steve?
Right. Yeah, well,
I just wanted to invite you or challenge you to, if you choose this value, to eradicate the word competition from your entire company and all stakeholders. But so as Stephen was saying, we are coming. These were just few examples.
But no, I think what you said is great, and this is really such a rich exercise. It's very exciting to talk about it for me, because it's near and dear to my heart, and I really appreciate how it shapes a company, and that deep dive says a lot about who you are as a leader, and leaders are everywhere in every organization. You don't need to need to have a C-suite title to be a leader in your company. I took a course on managing upward at one point in my journey, in my career, and it's vital that you bring these leadership qualities out no matter what role you're playing in your business venture, and certainly invite this to happen for you. Now, just to kind of circle back on the key itself, so something else that goes with core values, it's because businesses evolve, the marketplace you're operating in evolves, or you may have some experiences, core values are always up for reexamination. And so to me, this goes very much along with some of the other keys that we're going to be talking about later, which is this is something that deserves to be revisited periodically. A lot of companies that have embraced core values as a way of being, they have an annual kind of core values revisiting. How is this working for us? Is this still applicable? Do we need to adjust our definition a little bit? Or does it need to expand into a new way? Are there new core values that really want to come online? So
are
this
we
is
embodying them?
Yeah. Are we really practicing? Are we walking our talk? I mean, that's a good gauge. And so there's a lot of new indices for success that I would say change agent type companies are embracing. So this is one where a regular self-examination and even peer examination is oftentimes used nowadays, particularly if you're working in a collaborative network of companies. You can go to other partner companies that you're operating with, and you can say, hey, we'd love to come together and have you give us an assessment on how well we're embodying our core values. And so this is kind of a long tail exercise but it will undeniably guide you in a way that is sustaining, fulfilling, and will take you to where you really want to go in a very expeditious way. So anyhow.
There is one question in the chat box, and John is asking if you have any example on how to create a sort of a process for me and my team to discover our true core values. So John asking for that. Do you have any process?
Well, John, that's an awesome question. And yeah, it is a process, and I will tell you that there's a definite set of individuals who are experts at assisting companies in doing that, whether it's coaches or consultants. There's people that this is what they do, and they're experts at it. It's something that I've facilitated a fair amount myself. It's not necessarily where I'm at this particular stage in my journey, but there are people that are very good at that. And so I would encourage you to, talk to your business colleagues and community to see what resources are near you, whatever geography you're in, and to contact them and to ask them what their experience at that is, and to interview that facilitator. It's really a facilitation. And oftentimes I would encourage it to be a facilitation, that it is a third party, because to try and facilitate it from within inside your own organization, there's some of these psychological effects that can actually hinder the process, because there's almost like an inner blindness to discovering core values, whereas a third-party facilitator can help the organization dive into that more effectively. So it is something to consider, a facilitator, and to allocate some budget for it, because it will be worth its weight in gold, and it will pay great dividends.
What if you don't have a budget for that?
Yeah, even if you don't have a budget for it, certainly what you want to do is access some resources and develop a game plan for how you're going to go about it, and see if there is somebody within your business community that would be willing to do this on a pro bono basis. Because again, I would highly recommend a third-party agent kind of serve the process, just to provide that outside perspective, because having a third-party perspective is vital. It can help uncover and discover things for you. And my guess is, if you're anything like the business community that we swim in and are a part of, people are eager to help each other. And so anybody who has had this experience, been through this experience, are good candidates to serve as that facilitator.
And so just to wrap it up, let's say you already has your values and you're really embodying. Do you have something to say about the process of sharing those values to all stakeholders?
Yeah, how
important is it for?
Well, it's vital. It's vital that these are. I mean, these want to become front of mind in not only within the executive team, but within every team member. So obviously, from an inward perspective, these are something that they need to be part of your training processes. So if you're onboarding a new employee, then core values needs to be part of their onboarding process, is bringing them on. Certainly from an outward facing perspective, core values typically would be on a website. There would be a dedicated section of your website that would speak into what your company's about. Particularly in this day and age, a lot of products and service companies in particular are very focused. There's a dog that just came to visit. A lot of people are making their purchase choices based on what the company stands for. So if your core values are front and center and are visible for the public to see, then that helps them make those choices. If they see you stand for core values that they stand for in their life, then it actually becomes a discerning point for making their purchase choice. Because as most businesses, there's multiple options for people to choose from these days, unless you have a totally unique product. But more than likely, there are other choices that people have, and core values could be the differentiating thing. It could make the difference on whether a customer decides to buy from you or somebody else. So that's definitely a great place to do it. The other place is really in all of whoever's involved.
By the way, just since I want to share that one of my friends is launching, has launched, or I should say is launching very soon, a company that's called Intently. Intently.com, and that's exactly what this is about. It's meant to when you surf on the web, you have all these advertisement that comes that you never ask for, and so this website you register and you actually get a company that are in alignment with your core value and your desire and your of choice. And so I think it's an amazing idea, and it's really in alignment with what you share. So
totally.
And we're gonna wrap it up. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, just one final piece is where these really come into play, because I spoke about it earlier, is around what I call the agreement field. So anybody who's involved in negotiating agreements, in particular, they need to really understand the core values at depth, because that will really help train them to make sure that those values are reflected in the agreements that they're negotiating on behalf of the company. So if it's people who are hiring, they're important. If they're people that are negotiating contracts, they're important to understand these core values. So, I mean, let's say you have outside counsel. You have lawyers that represent your company. This is an important exercise to take them through so that they understand what you stand for. And even though there are all these legal precedents, they still can help shape your agreements into supporting your core values. So you may even find you're creating a whole new template of agreements. That's what I found in my journey as I've embraced core values, that a lot of the boilerplate agreements that you might buy from LegalZoom or some of these, boilerplate like legal agreements, you'll find that a lot of those agreements really don't match your core values. And you're like, wow, I really want to create a new type of agreement that really matches who we are. And so I believe that there's a huge evolution in agreements coming from companies who are embracing core values.
Thank God. That's awesome. So thank you for pointing that last piece. And thank you so much for coming here live on a weekday and visiting us here in the wood.
Yes.
You can find us on Facebook, the Change Agent Hub group, and if you have any where you want to ask us question or reach out to us, that's a good place to do so. And we will be coming back to you very soon with the key number 3, which is, you want to say it again?
Yes. To make whatever change for good your organization is embracing a cultural imperative, right?
Ooh.
So that becomes the next thing we're going to look at, how to make it an imperative. All right.
Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Much love. Bye-bye.